Hi, sports fans, specifically Chicago Bears fans. My name is Will Wright. I'm a lifetime Bear fan since 1983, and we're starting this new segment, episode 1 of Bear With Me. We'll be interviewing Mr. Glynn Morgan, who is the NBC sports analyst for Chicago. And let me tell you something. This is a platform for all of us that are Bear fans, sports fans. They work in the corporate field, healthcare field. They just want a stress reliever with everything that's going on in the country today and going on in the world today. This is going to provide you an outlet to really plug in and get some great weekly or monthly analysis of the Chicago Bears, but also decompress. Because in today's time, we need something to plug into that's going to give us a sense of relief, but also give us a sense of pride and give us some energy and passion and motivation to carry out our day.
Hey, what's up, Will? How you feel, man?
I'm doing well, Glenn. How you doing? You pumped up? You excited? Talk to me, Glenn. Let's go.
I go on this with a coach's reservation. I'm thinking about all the different things that are going on. I'm like internally pumped, but outwardly I'm just like trying to be chill. So but I'm a mixture of all things.
Well, Glenn, let's get right into it. Like, okay, tonight opens up the 2023-2024 season. Kansas City Chiefs playing the Detroit Lions. And believe it or not, this game has implications early on our schedule and on our division. So before we go more heavy into the Bears, like what do you think tonight is going to provide? And I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of scared with Chris Jones not being there and Travis Kelce is, he's questionable with that hyperextending knee. Like, what are you seeing? What are you thinking based off of the intel that we've gathered thus far before tonight's kickoff?
I'm thinking this is a great opportunity for Bear fans and for the Bear administration, the contingent, to scout both teams. They're on our schedule. So this is a great opportunity to sit back, scout them ahead of time, put it in the coffers. You got a couple of days even before, we have to deal with our own situation with Green Bay. So I look at it as an opportunity to see if these Lions are everything that the preseason pundits have touted that they might be, to see if the Chiefs are going to have a Super Bowl hangover. Chances are they probably won't. They've been around this block a few times. But there are little things that pop up, that affect any and every football team, things that are attrition related, usually revolves around injuries. And right now, as you alluded to earlier, Kelce, bit of a knee. So we'll, hyperextended knee. So we'll see what happens with that. And there's a new left tackle. So they've got to adjust to how that protection is going to be. Donovan Smith's over there now. So we'll see how that, sinks in with the other guys. And every year is a different year. I mean, you hear that it's a tried and true statement because, well, it's tried and true. Every year is different. You approach things differently. Your expectations change. People's lives change after Super Bowl. Those things are dramatic things that happen. So we can't act as though it's a Madden video game. You just get right back and do the same thing you did before. The same people puppeting the strings. It's a whole different situation. And Detroit, I'll say this: I've watched a lot of things from Detroit's point of view with their own internal shows that they do. Pretty much every NFL team has their own internal marketing that they do, public relations, so to speak, or they kind of put out videos about who they are, what they're doing, introducing the rookies, all these things, promotional stuff. But it gives you a little insight into the frame of mind, how they conduct. Every team is a little different. We all have the same goals, and that's to win the Super Bowl. But how everyone goes about it, I'm not striking anything new here when I say it's done differently, but it is done differently, and you got to take that into account. So, for me, with the Lions, to answer your question a little bit more precisely in terms of how they're constructed, I'm really curious how this new running back group is going to go. Our old guy, David Montgomery, is over there now. I've never was a huge Montgomery fan. I'm not a hater by any stretch of the means, but even coming out of college, I thought he was just a guy, a person who was a complete back, no doubt, run, catch, block well, but nothing special in terms of, explosive or game changing. I think, he can keep the things moving along. He's another spoke in the wheel, but he's not the water that's turning the wheel,
Right.
Um, and so for them being the Lions, to pay him what they did and what they have paid him, and to draft a rookie with the expectations of what they think he's going to be able to bring them as a rookie into their high expectations, I think that's a bit much. I remember Buffalo last year when they drafted Little Cook. They drafted James Cook, and they kind of brought him with the express purpose of being that third down back or that receiving back, that explosive back, because that's what he did at Georgia. He could change games with just a wheel route. Next thing you know, he's in the end zone. It took him a while to acclimate to what the NFL requires, and blocking protections and all those things make a difference. That's how you get out there as a running back. If you can't block, you're a liability, at least, in terms of protecting your quarterback. So, Jamal Williams, I know he had 17 touchdowns, and a lot of them were goal line touchdowns, but there's some receiving touchdowns too, and he's a versatile veteran. And then you let Swift, I know he had injury issues, but Swift was a dynamic player. He can get you those explosive plays. One of those guys I thought should have stayed. Jamal, if you weren't going to pay Swift. Losing both of them, that's a lot of production you're asking guys to come in and fulfill. Now, I know the offensive line is good, but again, you got to make those adjustments. And Jamison Williams, come on, bro. Yeah, at some point you got to be able to play. I mean, he has been out in the field. This is going to his third year, maybe a second. I'm losing track. He's been on the team for a while, but he's hardly played. He's played less than Justin.
Right.
So I don't know how dynamic they're pat. And then you don't have TJ Hawkinson starting out like you did before. You got a rookie more or less, being your primary tight end target. So will that play action work well enough for Goff to be able to pass the ball downfield and be as efficient as he was last year? Starting out, I'm not certain. And when your first game is against a Super Bowl defending champion, I know minus Chris Jones, but still, they're a champion for a reason, and an AFC participant in the championship game 4 years going straight, 5 years going straight. I'm losing count. Since Mahomes has been there, they've been at the AFC championship game. So
they've submitted.
Yeah. So yeah, man, it's again, a great opportunity to scout. I think if the Lions win, I think what they have going for them, Kelsey maybe not playing, also, or even if he's playing, not being 100%, and the Super Bowl hangover and a lot of the hoopla. Sometimes teams with that hoopla, they do get caught up in it. Focus isn't where it could be, and there could be, but then again, Mahomes and Reed, man, those are different cats.
Yes, and that's what that's the only saving grace I see, because again, I want Detroit to lose tonight. So when we beat Green Bay on Sunday, that gives us a 1-game lead coming right out the gates. And that's just being, honest and gaining that early season momentum, because everybody's hyped up Detroit all summer, whether it was ESPN, whether it's FS1, Colin, and then some people started to flip flop. And then, when I sit back and I watch it and I analyze it, and it's like, okay, on paper, like you said, they got a good offensive line. They do. I think top 5 if we look at the stats, pass blocking, run blocking, across the board.
I would agree.
But again, like Detroit, they have won division title since 1993. So it's like all this praise, and you still want to look at some form of body of work. And I know last year, 2 of those, I think, wins they got down the stretch was against us last year. What a relatively, junior high squad on the field, So I look at the strength of schedule, when you're analyzing this thing. So for everybody to just come out and jump on the Detroit Lions hype train, me personally, I think it's a little far-fetched. But guess what? Start tonight, we'll see if the hype is real.
Yes. I think even if they lose, even if they get blown out, I don't think that means we throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, you can have a bad loss, and you win. I think I've always thought you learn more from losing than you do from winning in a lot of ways. And I hear you with the Detroit's never done stuff before, but the Cardinals had never gone to the Super Bowl in my lifetime as a child until they did. The Buccaneers, when I was as a child, the Buccaneers came in with a laughing stock.
Right.
I mean, I think John McKay or Jim McKay, the head coach for the Buccaneers, I think one of the comments they made, they asked him, like, so what do you think of your team's execution? He says he's all for it, because that's how bad they play. Like, yes, execute them all. So they were the laughing stock. I remember What's Happening, the show. And they were asking, not Rerun, but the other friend, Dwayne, I think.
Dwayne, right, yeah.
They're asking Dwayne, they're like, so because he was guessing games right, and they asked him about this one bet, and he said Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're like, what? He's like, he went with it, and they all jumped in, and they all lost their money. And they asked him, like, why'd you pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? He's like, I like the color of the uniforms. I mean, they were a laughing stock. Right. So much so that they eventually changed the color of the uniforms because people weren't giving them about the dress.
Right.
And then I never thought I'd see the Bucs go to the Super Bowl, and they've been twice. They're 2-0, and we're 1-1. So I'm just saying, at some point in time, the worm turns, and this might be that year for the Lions. And I think the hype is more so because they started out really bad. It wasn't like they started out good, had a lull, then won some games down the stretch to get a decent record. They started out really bad. Yeah. And most people wondering, like, is this dude going to retain his job? And then they started playing. They caught fire. And the offense had been playing pretty well. The defense was really the bigger liability for that team. But they did, and they beat Green Bay in Green Bay when Green Bay was really trying to win.
Right.
And that was something that they, like ourselves, have a really bad record against Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's beat everybody in the division, but we had really bad records against him. So I think there is more to it than just the hype. I think there is some substance behind what that organization seems to be now. And again, when you watch some of the behind the scenes stuff, and you see the GM and how he goes about his process and how he works in conjunction with Campbell, that it's a tandem and that these guys are on the same page. That's a big part of it right there. Remember when Pace first got here, he was not in tandem with John Fox.
Not at all.
Fox didn't know what was going on.
Correct.
And it looked bad.
Right. But, let's be honest. At that point, Fox was he was at the end of the road.
Sure.
And I tell everybody, he was just stealing money. Like, if you're going to pay me based off of my past credentials, which, again, to me, he hadn't warranted to even get that job. But it was a bad job at the time. So you had to bring someone that was more of a seasoned veteran that understood all the nuances, of the league and trying to rebuild. But like you said, you could tell from day one that he and Ryan Pace, they did not have a good chemistry that gave us any inclination that they would lead us back to the prominent times of 85 or 2001, 2006, or even, I think before he got there, 2011 was the last one, or 2010 was the last winning season. So yeah. Think about it. When us, especially the older Bears fans, I've been a Bear fan since '83. So when we went through all the quarterbacks, we had some dominance. So when you look at but the lull period after '91, and that was during the Brett Favre era, which we're gonna get in here shortly when we start talking about the Green Bay Packers and Chicago Bears rivalry, which unfortunately the last 30 years it hasn't been much of a rivalry. When you look at how we were just dominated after 91. I think we only made the playoffs 7 times from 91 up until 2023. That's think about it. That's a long time, man. So when I talk about all the hype,
blink of an eye.
Man, when I talk about all the hype with Detroit, like, I'm really sitting over here saying, like, since 1993, it wasn't even the NFC North then. I think it was the Central. So think about how we've evolved since the last time Detroit won. And then, like you say, because Tampa Bay was in the Central as well.
Tampa Bay was in the division.
With those ugly orange popsicle uniforms and the pirate on the side of the helmet.
Right.
So when you think about all of us that have been committed and dedicated through this process with this organization, and now it's like we're in a position, finally, it's like the football guys have said, you know what, you all have been so loyal for so long. Are we finally going to get blessed, Glenn? That's the question.
The football guys are capricious, man. I'm like those old guys, and when you watch those mythology movies, and they hit rail to the heavens and go, "I don't need you anymore. I don't trust you. You're too cruel. You're too random."
Right.
And yeah, too random and cruel, man. So no, you know what? We got to take the reins in our hands. That's how I feel. We got to do what we need to do, and I like that. That's what seems to be happening with this regime. I think Poles and Eberflus are definitely in concert with what they're doing. I think Poles is providing Eberflus, especially this year. We've really seen it with the free agent moves, having money to make those moves, and then with the draft picks, having that kind of capital to bring in a type of players that can help, especially on defense, help at least usher in more of a foundational aspect of what Eberflus wants to put out there on the field. Still missing a few pieces, but we're a whole hell of a lot closer than we were last year.
Right.
And as much as this year is a testament to how much we hope Justin has grown, it's also a challenge, a test for Eberflus and his coaching staff. It really is, because now they themselves don't have the excuse of we don't have players. So they have to show not only that can you coach good players, but can you develop players too? Because keep in mind, we've got a number of young players on this team as well. So you've got a young quarterback that that we didn't draft, or that they didn't. When I say we, I mean that regime didn't draft. So can you develop him? Someone that was already here. Can you fix or develop or help nurture? And by the same token, we got what seems to be a very nice find in free agent pickup, Tyson Bagent. So can you also develop a young quarterback? Because whether or not we keep him, he may become trade. You do what Green Bay's done for all those years. You develop a guy, trade him, and you get some more draft capital. Do what some other teams have been doing. Develop him, trade him, get some more capital. Also, you've got defensive line people. Okay, you're the defensive guru. You're the DC that came from Indianapolis. This is your system. These are the guys that you say can really help the system flourish, at least, in some aspects. Can you develop them and make them, effective and efficient? And when Eberflus was at Indianapolis, and let's not forget, it wasn't like there were a lot of household names, in Indianapolis. Right. And they were still, they beat Kansas City. I think 2 of the 4 times he was there, I think they beat Kansas City, or at least, the aspects of his defense, if they might have done it the year after he was gone, I'm not certain, but I know they beat Kansas City. I think it might have been the year Kansas City actually won the Super Bowl. So, and they did, and it wasn't, it was a masterful job in terms of, really containing the explosive. That's with Tyreek and Tyson, in their, they're not only saying their prime, but, they're definitely, at their full height of their power, so to speak. So, so can you do this? You tell me that you're the coach. So can you do this? So this is going to be a test this year. And football gods aside, I don't want to say anything because I am a little superstitious at times. I don't want to mess with our karma. But I'm like, look, man, I don't want to have to. I don't want to depend on the refs. I don't want to have to depend on the capriciousness of those invisible gods that may be out there.
And see, Glynn, it's funny you said that because I wanted to speak on that as well, because it seemed like every Green Bay game that we lost that was close, it always came down to something that the ref realistically thought they saw, but wasn't a reality. Whether it was a phantom hold, whether it was a phantom pass interference. Like it seemed like, and I know Aaron, a couple of phantom roughing the passers, which unfortunately Justin, he never rarely gets, because to me that makes me think that the referees look at him as an athlete, not a quarterback.
Certainly, yes.
Well, and he doesn't get those calls like a Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers
did. Aaron Rodgers, right.
and Drew Brees. Like if they looked at him as a quarterback, especially within the pocket, I think all those low shots he takes to his knee, he don't get those calls. The late history, even when he's sliding, when it's you can see the guy torpedoing in, like when a Donovan Sue hit him upside the head against the Eagles last year. To me, like. He was already down. He doesn't get those calls. So now with a new season, and when I want to talk about the rivalry, which, like I said earlier, it really has been a rivalry the last 30 years. I think we're 14 and 46, and because before then, like we dominated the Packers. Like it was nothing up for. And during, if you go back and look at Lovey's time, like the first 10 games with Lovey was 7-3.
He had a good record. Yeah, he ended up 8-11, but he had a good record with them.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
it's. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I
No, you
apologize.
good.
A couple of things. I've always said this to people as a kid. Sometimes, the histories of the sport always intrigued me as a kid, and I would look and I'm like, man, the Bears were like dominant, like they were like the shit, like in the 40s, like man, like 73-0, like who does that in a championship game? And then like nothing, crickets in the 50s, and then like in early mid 60s, it's like, oh man, these boys are good again, and then like crickets in the 70s, and then in the 80s, like, oh okay, here we go, and then like the 90s, it struggles, and early 2000s, we might be onto something real quick, then the 20s. So my point is, it's about every 20 years, give or take a generation, the Bears actually show. Just in time enough so that the old heads, kids can grow into it just long enough so they can win and be fans enough so that they sucked in the same process and follow the same, circular footsteps as their predecessors. So, with that in mind, earlier you said it's just our time. We were being tongue in cheek with stuff, but yeah, I kind of think we are growing to that same pattern again, and I really look to 2025 being a time where we should be challenging in the NFC Championship game with a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and that would be 40 years from the last time that we look dominant.
Right.
I mean, the other team that went to Super Bowl looked good, but towards the end of the year we started to see cracks. We saw that Grossman wasn't really the real deal. We saw that like in the Thursday night or Monday night game when my boy, rest his soul,
Dennis Green.
When Dennis Green lost his shit, rest his soul, best rant ever. I love that one.
Oh, hands down, unequivocally, yes.
but
if you want to crown him, we got him off the hook. That's infamous, baby. That needs to be corn on a shirt.
But we saw the cracks, with Grossman's game there going forward, and then the injuries. We lost Tommy, we lost Mike Brown, and those were significant. For defense, to a team that was dominating defense. And we still had a chance to win it. And then there was some bad coach. I don't want to digress too much, but point being that I think you had that chance to be in that swing. But yeah, you're right. The Packers have had our number, man. And it's tough to say shit to somebody when they say shit to you. Can't say shit back. When Roger says, "I own you," now if he said it to a brother, I'd have been like, "What are you trying to say?" But he said it to the general populace, and it was like. Yeah, I got a point. Dude went what 24-5 against us. I mean, one out of every 5 times he plays, we win. I mean, come on, that's not good.
A lot of those games weren't even close though. Like
a lot of them were not close.
Like when I tell you they were blowouts, so
they were embarrassing.
Those games discouraged me from going to the game, and because I'm sitting here like, why do we keep playing these games in front of a national television audience? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when people that might be on the fence about being a Bears fan or selected a team, man, look, they sorry.
Yeah.
That's like, Will, why you still support them? Like seriously, like they're not really providing you any satisfaction. Like, you're not a diehard fan, you're a diehard fool. And it's like, I started looking at some of the product on the field, Glenn, and I'm sitting up here like, Glenn, I think, and don't quote me on this, I think we could have fielded a better team some of those years than like when Mel Tucker was defensive coordinator. Those defenses were atrocious.
Yeah, well, Mel's kind of a car wreck. Yeah, that's a dude coming in on a veteran team trying to tell them to do something that they're not, and they're trying to convert them into more of a 3-4 type. And then further making his credibility even less so because he acquiesced to the players. He capitulated maybe too soon, to the veterans, and so now no one's going to respect you. So anything you're saying at this point is just it's going in one ear and out the other. Yeah, they checked out.
Right.
So yeah, man, it's been tough, but these things are cyclical. I guess is the long part what I was trying to say. These things are cyclical, and right now, what's so exciting about this Bears-Packers rivalry, and although it may not be a rivalry in some people's eyes, it's the oldest in the NFL. Right. You're talking over 200 plus games these teams have played against one another. Okay, you're talking that the Packers didn't finally surpassed the Bears in terms of most games won as an organization until last year when they won the 787th. So yeah, the rivalry goes beyond just on the gridiron. You're talking Wisconsin, Illinois, and people in Wisconsin don't feel good about people from Chicago, and people from Chicago don't respect the rural people from Wisconsin.
Right.
I mean, think about it. It's not the Milwaukee Packers, Green Bay. Like, who goes? No one vacation. I'm not gonna try to be like Joakim Noah, but no one vacations to Green Bay. Okay, it's just.
But Glenn, I'm gonna tell you something. Have you ever been to a Green Bay Bears game in Lambeau?
Dude, yes, several, and I enjoy it. I tell you what, this one of the professional. I haven't been to all the professional venues, not by any stretch, but compared, I've been to a lot of college games. Green Bay, it's one of the coolest places, dude.
Yes.
If anybody listening, all those you listening, if you get a chance to go, I actually prefer going to Green Bay to watch that game as opposed to here in Chicago.
Right. Well, I prefer either, but going to Lambeau shocked me. Like all the residents.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you said
they run out their driveways that you
in the neighborhood.
And I'm sitting up here, okay, that's a good economic move. And they're sitting there on the lawn providing security. Like they're so kind. They're so
yes.
It's really an environment. First of all, the entire area within a 100-mile radius is shut down. Like when I tell you, it's like a holiday at Lambeau when they play Chicago. And I'm sure it's like any other game, but that game, right? Because you got everybody from Chicago coming up to Lambeau as well. So when that game happens and you see how it's so infectious with energy, like I'm sitting in the stands, you meeting all these people because you got that one common love. Whether you're a Packer fan or I know a lot of Packer fans that they were very cool. They were very welcoming. So it's like that's why I don't get over the edge in trashing Packer fans or trashing Lions fans or trashing Vikings because at the end of the day, it's like we're all in this for the same thing as far as the self-gratification and the fun and supporting your team. As long as it stays respectful, then I'm good. But as long as it never crosses that line, then we'll never have any issues. But Glenn, like we've talked about all this past stuff, which has been kind of demoralizing. Let's go ahead and fast forward to Sunday. Let's fast forward to Sunday because when I was doing some research earlier, and I'm like, the last time we beat the Packers, if I'm not mistaken, was at Soldier Field 24-17. And the only players remaining from that team are Eddie Jackson, Cody Whitehair, and I think Patrick Scales. So the beautiful part about this is we got 50 people that have never – Justin, he's lost to him 4 times. Right. But we got to me, we got all this new energy, and we got people like DeMarcus Walker. He beat the Packers last year. So we got a lot of new players that have Unique Ngakoue. Like they've had success against the Packers. So when you mesh that veteran presence with all this rookie and first and second year talent, do you see that as an advantage because you got some rookies that are fully fired and never really had they got great raw athletic scores and they fit our scheme? It's not the same old people that's just going through the motion, just drawing a paycheck, and they truly understand the relevance of this game, and they're going to bring their A game like a Jaquan Brisker, like he's and of course that's what he's supposed to say in when he's doing his conference. He's supposed to say that, you know what I'm saying? But do you truly feel that they're going to bring the energy to make us proud of our Chicago Bears come Sunday?
Yes, and you can make someone proud even in a loss if that were to happen. It all depends on how you play. I think that's endemic in all. I think with all Chicago fans and all Chicago sports, if we see you really put the true effort into it, win or lose, we're still ride and die with you. We get a little upset when it looks like you're half-assing it. That's when you start. That's when you start to lose fans. So, but yeah, I think to speak to the rivalry in terms of how the players are seeing it and addressing it. They're not thinking about that per se when they're playing. They're thinking about their assignments and all that stuff. The game happens that they got to be focused on that. Afterwards, they may have to, reflect on it a little bit. And when a game seems imminent, whether it's a win or a loss, but definitely if it's a win in our favor, you'll probably hear a little bit of this. And it's not to say that, because I mentioned that Aaron Rodgers told us that he still owned us, so they are aware. I think it's, it's not 100% on their mind like it is on ours, because we're fans, and that's, we have the luxury to really let it stew and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not going to say my perspective is unique by any stretch of the means, but I went to University of Tennessee, so I'm a big Tennessee Volunteer fan. And so I kind of had the same deal with Florida. Like, if you ask me, I like my first words are F Florida. I mean, I'm trying to be, generous here and not, just straight curse, because even when I say Florida, I start to get, it just gets under my skin. Like, I hate Florida more than I hate Green Bay Packers.
Right.
Sorry. I just do. I do. Florida, Alabama, you get me to cursing, and Marist High School, but that's a whole different story. So, when I hate, it's for real. And I imagine a lot of fans, they really hate the Packers and they really hate what's been going on. So we really want to see our team do well. But I mentioned Tennessee because it's very similar, where a lot of Florida players will be like, ain't a rivalry. We've been kicking y'all asses for so long, like, whatever. But when Tennessee beat them fools last year, oh, let me tell you, oh, man, it was like a new day. And then on top of that, we beat Alabama the same year. I mean, there's a great picture they have, because whenever that's a rivalry, people don't realize that goes back way before you and I were even thought of, even before our folks were probably our folks were probably kids or babies or whatever. So when there's a cigar, it's part of the tradition that you smoke it. There's a picture, and I got to I'm trying to talk my wife into give me this picture. There's this picture of the stadium taken from a wide enough view, because the game was at night, and you used to see a cloud of smoke going up, and you got the colors of the red and the orange and the purple, all the stuff from the lights and stuff hitting it. But that's that smell of victory. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I say all that to say that as a Bear fan, I really want to have the same kind of joy I had last year when we beat Florida, when we beat Alabama, and for the Bears to overcome this Green Bay thing, because that's what it is. It's just been a thing.
Right. And it's mental.
It's mental, and emotionally it affects us, and it's psychological, Mm-hmm. And it's just been a thing that's been, we've been on that down cycle, But you mentioned it earlier, back in the 70s when I was a kid growing up, the Green Bay Bear thing kind of went back and forth. It'd be win 2, lose 1, win 3, lose 2, lose 3, win 2. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of back and forth. In the 80s is when the dominance from our end came. Right. And Mike Ditka ended up going 15-5, I think, against those guys. You know what I'm saying? And
he wiped the floor with them.
And the wiping of the floor wasn't always necessarily because of the disparity with the score. You just saw them physically get their ass whooped.
Oh, yeah.
And you knew it.
Yeah. Don Majkowski, he didn't have the magic when he played us. I'm talking, we used to destroy them.
Dude, it was embarrassing. And so
that wasn't mental. That was physical.
Well, it was everything. It was spiritual, physical, and mental.
So think about
it.
We grew up in that era, and we saw the physical dominance. So as you go into the 90s, and it's like, hey, one step. What happened? Dick Geron. What happened?
They started out 1-1.
He did.
But they once that made the one, public faux pas saying it was just another game. And Bear fans like, what you talking about?
Right.
Another game? What?
Right.
And he's like, come on now, coach. What? And so, he tried to get back on track later, but once you can't take it back. He'd have been killed if it was social media like it is now. He'd have been totally roasted.
He would have made it 6 games, Glenn. I'm telling you.
He might have been canceled earlier.
Yes, the cancel culture would have been full effect.
But this is that opportunity you alluded to it earlier, man. A lot of new players, a lot of new faces, and in the Packers, sometimes they're overconfident. Person's overconfidence can work to the underdog's benefit and to the overconfident person's detriment. So all those guys probably feel how they feel, like, okay, same old Bears. All right, but you know what though? I don't care what you think. It's all, I don't care what I think and what I can affect. So I'm excited because it is a new era, really, for both teams in a lot of ways. Some of those players, a number of those players for Green Bay have been there, but when the new head figure, when the new captain gets in charge of the ship, the crew might be the same, but the direction of the ship is where how it goes is pretty much navigated by that new captain. And so Jordan
Right.
Love is that new captain. So it's kind of a new face on things. And so we'll see what happens. We'll put your guy against our guy. And let's be fair. I mean, hey, Justin has played what, 12 times more the games than he's played. I mean, Justin's played probably close to 20 plus games now, I think, as a pro.
I think his career record is like 5-20. So
yeah, so 20, 20
to me, that's
games.
great experience. I don't look at the win-loss record.
Not worried about that.
I don't care about that because we know he didn't have the talent, and Matt Nagy put him in a bad scheme, so he had to get all that reworked. So I'm looking at, okay, and now this year, which I think this is a good transition, when we're looking at X's and O's, the Bears offense against the Packers defense, I think we match up very well, all because of Justin. Because we let's be honest, last year we saw what he did both games, and that was with a deficiency in talent, line, skill position players. Because realistically, the only skill position player last year he had that we would consider adequate would have been Khalil Herbert or David Montgomery. EQ, great blocking wide receiver, but bro, he got brick hands, Glenn. I'm sorry. Dante Pettis just got cut. Like EQ can't catch a cold buck naked in the North Pole. Like, I'm just being honest. He had too many critical drops last year, and you know, I know everyone says he can block. He's a big body wide receiver, but ultimately, like, I'm all about what have you done for me lately. We're in a production based business. I need you to be able to do more than just block. So now it shows you how deficient the talent was last year compared to this. Like, he's fifth on the depth chart. He might be sixth behind your Tennessee Volunteer Bayless Jones. Like, but what is that saying?
Saying we still need more talent in wide receiver.
Right.
Yeah, when I looked at the lines, the defensive line for the Packers, offensive line for us, I mean, pretty much height and weight is pretty much negligible. It's pretty much the same. I think they both average about 6'3.5", and I think they both average 316 pounds. So right there's no size necessarily advantage. Age-wise, they're about 26 years of age each, give or take. I think one might be 25 years, the other one's 26. So that's pretty negligible too in terms of experience, so to speak. I think where I see a bit of an advantage, and this is just me, being nitpickish about it, is that where these guys for the Packers have come from, the schools they played at and the competition they played at prior to coming to the pros, and that pedigree. Chances are those guys playing there were 4-star, 5-star guys. Okay, so we're talking, Kenny Clark at UCLA. We're talking T.J. Slayton in Florida, and I remember that motherfucker. We're talking Devontae Wyatt at Georgia. I remember too. So as opposed to, you look at our offensive line, you've got Braxton Jones from Southern Utah. You got who else do we got? We got a guy from Duke. Got another guy. Kansas State's probably like the more with white hair, probably the more preeminent type of program that's putting out some NFL offensive linemen. And then we got another guy from Charlotte, and then we got the rookie from Tennessee. So it's like, okay, and I know that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I'm saying if I'm being nitpickish, it's like, okay, how good are our guys really compared to how good these guys may be on the other side? The other thing, because we've all heard how many first round picks the Packers defense has. Yeah, they didn't play. Yeah, they didn't play very well last year, but that could be coaching. The talent's still talent. Even if half of those guys are good, that's still a really good defense with a lot of first round talent on there. As opposed to us on offense, again, Justin, DJ Moore. If you start expanding the offense, Justin and DJ Moore first round picks, and Darnell Wright, and that's it. And nobody else first round pick. You know what I'm saying? So
you don't think we still have 12 personnel with your boy from Green Bay? I think he's going to he's a de facto left tackle, if you want to be honest.
Well, I was really trying to figure out, like, if I'm game planning, I'm not a coach. No disrespect to the Bears coaching staff. Clearly, they're there. I'm here. I was really trying to figure out, is this 12 really going to help us, or are we better maybe trying to spread them out? Or if spreading them out, do we invite other things? If we spread them out, I think Green Bay gets quicker. And by spreading them out and them getting quicker, I think that quickness could be used to help nullify Justin a little bit. When I say nullify, keep him from getting outside and making damage. Luke Van Ness out of Iowa, Illinois kid at heart, but Iowa grad, or not grad, but at least, former Iowa Hawkeye in their first round pick. He is athletically a problem. I don't think his skill set is yet in terms of how to maneuver and get off blocks at an NFL. At an NFL level, I don't think it's there yet. But athletically, he's that kind of guy that can stretch it. You try to go lateral against him, he can move with you. And they've got pretty good linebackers that can run as well. And their safety is pretty. I mean, their secondary is pretty fast. So, to me, 12 personnel would work. You would think would work well. That being said, they probably know that too. So how effective are we going to be when it comes to passing the ball? And how effective is Tunyon going to be blocking? How effective is Kmet going to be blocking? Do we need to bring in Lewis to help with the blocking? It's like, do we limit ourselves with our explosiveness if we go 12? Or in trying to be explosive, do we expose ourselves to possibilities that we need not be ready for just yet because the continuity hasn't fully developed because there's a lot of new moving pieces? And let's be honest, we haven't seen Claypool in the passing offense at all. Mooney, very little. We've seen, DJ, which is awesome. And Valus and Tyler have the dripsy drops. The confidence isn't fully there yet. Right. So as explosive as we can be, I don't know if we're ready to explode on to the scene week one. So yes, to your point, 12 personnel, but does that limit our explosiveness? Does Green Bay force Justin to pass, which is, I would imagine, they want to do? So, it's going to be interesting. And this is where the coaching comes in. And this is where we need to see, like, okay, is our screen game going to be good? Our tight ends going to be used effectively so that you don't know what we're doing? We're in 12 personnel. So how much is our play action going to work from that to where maybe our tight ends leak out, downfield, and they're able to be effective in the passing game? And aside from DJ, what other receiver is going to give us something? Because we know he's going to be focused on by their secondary. Now, I think Green Bay is, maybe EQ, maybe Claypool.
The reason why I say this is because, like Luke Gessie, I can see him utilizing Bob Tunyon, Mercedes Lewis, and EQ in ways that Green Bay won't even anticipate. You know what I'm saying? I can see them leaking out in the flat. I can see EQ doing some end around. Now, I'm not saying EQ going to do a fly, because he burnt Jair Alexander last year on a fly, believe it or not, and he caught it.
That was believable, catching it.
So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, all right. He came back on that button hook, didn't break down, didn't come back to the ball, and Jair stepped right. So it's like people rag on Justin as far as anticipation, throwing to a spot. But if you throw it to a spot and your wide receivers allowing the corner to beat you to that spot, like, people don't understand, because I played wide receiver. And at the end of the day, it's like we were always taught, have your hands up, come back to the quarterback. Don't just like if you got a corner trying to run through you, worst case, all they're gonna do is just knock the ball down. If you look at EQ, he was still breaking down when Jair stepped in front of him. And I'm sitting up here like, But then, of course, come Monday, you had everybody saying Justin is a quarterback and he can't read. Like, no. Like,
no, I don't believe that.
My thing is, it's like, if you don't have talking points, especially if you played in the NFL, and you can see that he's deficient in the talent that's needed to excel, well, he has that now. Right. So we can, because like you said about, we haven't really truly seen Mooney. We haven't really truly seen Claypool. But if Mooney and Claypool can't beat the second and third Packers, we in trouble.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. Here's the thing, man, and I'm sure going to get slammed for, maybe even canceled, whatever. And I'm not a hater. I'm not a naysayer. I try to be as objective and look at things as much as I can. I'm putting all my disclaimers out ahead of time. I'll put it this way. Before I knew that Watson and Dobbs, the receivers for the Packers, were dealing with some nagging injuries or whatever. I did not have the Bears winning this first game.
Okay.
I'm not saying a blowout. I'm not saying anything embarrassing. I'm going to see missteps and miscues because it's like everything's still not synced just yet. The offensive line. I mean, Patrick hasn't even really practiced, dude. Hasn't played any game. He's going to be our center. You know what I'm saying? And Whitehair's not completely healthy with his hand. Nate Davis, I hope his head is, into it more than it was for preseason. And then they still got to work together. We haven't really seen that. So that's going to be an issue for me. We already talked about the receivers and, again, the lack of continuity there at this point. Defensively, I feel better about us showing defensively. I think our defense is going to keep us in the game. I think our special teams has a possibility of keeping us in the game and making it so that at some point in time, I think I can even see us having a lead or whatever it may be. But I worry about the sustainability of our offense to win the game. And it may come down to where our offense needs to drive or two to win the game. Now, Justin can put on the cape, and that's the difference maker. He can put on that cape, and that may be the thing that he has to do in order for us to win. I look at Jordan Love, and I know it's like we haven't seen anything, but my spidey senses are telling me no reason a team, an organization is going to extend a quarterback who isn't any good and then not even draft quarterbacks to challenge him when there were quarterbacks to be taken. We've seen Stetson Bennett do well in preseason. We've seen Aiden O'Connell do well in preseason. We've seen Tyson Bagent do well in preseason. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks who've played long time in college come in and do well in preseason, not to mention the guys that were drafted in the first round. So my point is there were enough quarterbacks to come in and at least proffer some type of challenge if they didn't feel confident about Jordan Love. And they extended him after letting a Hall of Famer basically leave. So what is that telling you? And the continuity and consistency on that team outside of Rodgers really hasn't changed. Right. Devontae was already gone. So there's not, and I know there's a stat out there that shows that the Packers of all teams in the NFL have the least amount of skill yards returning with their quarterback and receivers and all that. But I'm like, yeah, okay. Stats are nice. That stats don't win you or lose you the game. The players win you lose the game. And we're talking about a head coach, and I know he said Aaron Rodgers, but the head coach is still putting the game plan together to some extent, and the coaching staff to some extent. And they have a winning record against us too. I think he's like 13-1 against us. I think LaFleur is. So I say I don't think we'll win the first game, but I think, ironically, I think we'll beat them in Green Bay. Matter of fact, I feel confident, especially if our key people are there, like Justin and DJ and a few other key elements offensively and defensively are there. I feel more confidently about the Bears going forward once October hits than I do these first 3 to 4 games in September.
Okay, Glenn. All right. So your prediction, if I'm understanding, is that the Bears will start off the season 0-1. That's what you're telling me.
It might be 0-2. Okay.
Well, guess what? My prediction is we're going to start off 2-0.
2-0. Okay, fair enough.
We're going to beat 38-17. We're going to beat Tampa Bay 27-17. Now, going into Kansas City, depending on if Chris Jones was back, like I believe, Glenn, I'm going to just be honest. I believe. I will be there this weekend, Glenn, and I'm bringing this energy. I'm bringing this passion. It's alumni weekend, so guess what? We're going to pump these guys up. We're going to get them motivated. Look, nobody thought Deion Sanders was going to beat TCU. And what happened? Let's be honest now.
They beat them.
Like when people believe,
anything can happen.
They will achieve. Anything will happen. So Glenn, let me tell you something. It's been a pleasure.
You know the other side says the same thing too, though, right?
But they can say that. Like, they don't believe. They still look. They trying to figure out Aaron. Because see, when Jordan get through those first 15 scripted plays, now I got to see your talent.
True.
Like I got to see. Like Justin has shown us that. Like if Jordan shows me that, guess what? I'll be the first one to say, you know what, Jordan Love. That's what I had you pegged wrong.
To your point, and I've said, because I guess I try to, sometimes maybe it's a little PTSD. Sometimes I'm scarred between my Volunteers and my Bears, what they've done to me over the last 30 years. But with Jordan, to your point, we don't know what he's like off script. We don't know how creative he is when the pressure is applied to him. We just don't know. There's so much. He's an enigma in a lot of ways to us. We have no idea what exactly he is when he faces adversity. We don't have a glimpse of it, and we can't hold it against him because it's his first game, COVID, rookie, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Justin, however, we have seen when adversity, because he was steeped in it. He's been surrounded by nothing but adversity. And we know he can be very creative. And I just, that being said, that's where you hope that there's not enough gridiron PTSD on Justin to where the trust isn't there. I don't think he's scarred psychologically. I'm not saying that at all. I believe he's a very mentally strong individual, but by all stretches of the context of that. I do, however, believe there are some trust issues. Like, do I trust my guys? Because like you said earlier, these guys weren't unveiling themselves. Equanimous is dropping passes. Other guys, like, we know he trusts DJ implicitly. Sometimes that could be a problem, because if that's the only guy you're trusting, the teammates may be like, dude, like, come on, man. You know, that's where I'm like, I need to see it built first. I need to see it built first and built. I'm not necessarily that has to be a win, but I need to see where they're learning. Like, okay, I got you. Like, okay, you're not there, but I get you. You know, when you start those conversations, you know, when they're walking back to the huddle, you know, if they have to punt the ball or whatever the case might be. And that's where that's my biggest concern is offensively right now. Defensively, I'm not that concerned. I'm really not. Offensively is where my worry is for this first game. When it comes to Tampa, because it's in Tampa and it's like a 1 o'clock game down there, and if you're not used to that heat, that could be a mother down there. And
I went 2 years ago and they lost to Tom Brady 38-3. But again, Nagy, like, he had a poor game plan once again. And
we beat them the Super Bowl year. The year they won the Super Bowl, we beat them.
With Nick Foles.
Right. Yeah. So but Tampa in September, it's like playing. It's you know, it becomes the topography and the geography that you're dealing with down there. You know, climatically speaking, here it's like, it's the heat and humidity. It's like playing here. It's the opposite when you play here in, you know, late December, early January, when you know, you Michael Vick coming in here. You're like, man, it's too damn cold. and the hits hurt.
I don't trust Baker Mayfield though. So they going through a slight rebuild. So when I look at the dynamics, I take Justin over Justin any day. Like, if you look at I went to the Cleveland game 2 years ago, the massacre, which Nagy should have been confined in jail for manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, 9 sacks. Yes. Like, if Justin would have had time, because we were sacking Mayfield too, you know what I'm saying? So it was back and forth until, you know, he finally got the defense got wore out. Let's be honest. Yes. They had Khalil Mack. They had they had, like, when you get wore out because your head coach is ineffective in putting together a game plan, like, how you not going to double team Clowney and what, he had 4.5 sacks by himself, Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
Like, it was ridiculous. Now, did Justin hold on to the ball a little bit? Because a couple times he could have threw it in the flat to the running back. He probably could have salvaged 4 or 5 of those sacks, but guess what? He was still trying to go. He couldn't even go through his first progression before he had someone in his lap.
Yeah, that's like putting me out there without a driver's license on the Grand.
Glenn, that's what I'm talking about. So look, hey, I know you got to get ready for work, my friend. Look, hope I get to see you this weekend. I hope you come back on the show in the future, because it's going to be a great year. And I know a lot of people are putting it out there that they expected us to have 5, 6, 7 wins. And I understand why they're saying that. But I feel just like back in 2018, the previous year we had 4 or 5 wins and we're predicted to win 3, 4 wins. You know, we made the Khalil Mack deal. I'm not saying that Unique Ngakwe is the same equivalent. Now, if we'd got Chris Jones, I'd be like, that's perfect. but I feel that we have enough. And like you said, it'll boil down to Justin and the offense really clicking without the hiccups, because we have a relatively soft schedule. If we take care of business in the North and win 4 or 5 games, the Carolina Panthers, the Arizona Cardinals, the Tampa Bay, like, if we win 4 or 5 of them, like, that's 11 wins right there. Or at least 10 if we split with Detroit. But I got us sweeping Green Bay and sweeping Minnesota. that's where I am on that. So,
well, I do agree with you on the Minnesota. I think we'll sweep Minnesota. I think we'll split with the other two. And I can live with that starting out compared to where we were. And I'm with you. I think, I think this team can ascend. I think 10-7 is something attainable. I think 8 and 9 would be like you missed a few opportunities, but we see where you're at, and it's still, still a significant turnaround. I think anything less than 8 wins will be seen as disappointing, to say the least.
I concur. I wholeheartedly, and look, my checkbook gonna concur too with all this traveling. Hey, Glynn, it was a pleasure, my friend. Look forward to chatting up with you in the future.
Definitely.
Hey, let me tell you something. I want you to believe. Let's resonate this throughout the Bear community, and if the national pundits come on board, because like Dion say, I'm keeping receipts. I got. I got.
When I'm wrong, call me out on it. I have no problem. But I was gonna say, you put a sandwich on it if you want to. But I try to enjoy with my heart, but I try to think and analyze with my head. So that's what the thing says there. It says I gotta be an analyst about it. So I try to think with my head, but I lead with my heart, but I think with my head. So
I love it. Hey, it's been a joy, my friend. I look forward to chatting up with you in the future.
Pleasure, man. Thanks, Will. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Hey guys, we had a great first episode. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back in the next couple of weeks talking Bears, doing a recap, hopefully, of all the Bear wins and the momentum that we have in this brand new 2023-2024 season. We want you to be a part of what we're growing here on Bear With Me, because ultimately it's about you as that sports fan. So let's continue to grow, and let's continue to have a great time as we embark upon this phenomenal season that has quickly came upon us.